Hello and welcome to our video on the biggest feuds between famous musicians. Throughout the history of music, there have been many instances where artists have clashed with each other over creative differences, personal conflicts, and even business disputes. In this video, we'll take a look at some of the most notorious feuds between famous musicians that have captured the attention of fans and the media alike. Number 10. Taylor Swift vs. Kanye West. One of the most well-known feuds in recent years is between Taylor Swift and Kanye West. It all started back in 2009 when Kanye interrupted Taylor's acceptance speech at the MTV Video Music Awards. The two had a rocky relationship for a while after that, but things really heated up in 2016 when Kanye released a song that included derogatory lyrics about Taylor. Taylor responded by calling him out at the Grammy Awards and in interviews, and the feud has continued on and off ever since. Number 9. Oasis vs. Blur. In the 1990s, two of the biggest bands in the UK were Oasis and Blur. The two groups were often pitted against each other by the media, and their rivalry became a huge part of the Britpop scene. It all came to a head in 1995 when the two bands released singles on the same day. The media dubbed it the Battle of Britpop, and while Blur's single ended up outselling Oasis, it didn't stop the feud from escalating. The two bands traded insults in interviews and in their music for years to come. Number 8. Madonna vs. Elton John.
Fuck off.
Madonna and Elton John have been feuding on and off for decades. It all started in the 1980s when Elton accused Madonna of lip-syncing during her concerts. Madonna responded by calling him out in interviews and even wrote a song about him called He's a Man.
I can tell you that.
The feud simmered down for a while, but it was reignited in 2012 when Elton called Madonna a fairground stripper during an interview. Madonna responded by dedicating a song to him during one of her concerts and telling him to kiss her ass. Number 7. Nirvana vs. Guns N' Roses. In the early 1990s, Nirvana and Guns N' Roses were two of the biggest rock bands in the world. However, their paths crossed in a negative way when Kurt Cobain and Axl Rose got into a heated argument backstage at the MTV Video Music Awards in 1992. The feud continued when Nirvana played a prank on Guns N' Roses during a joint tour, and Axl responded by storming off stage mid-concert. The feud eventually died down, but it remains one of the most memorable clashes between two famous musicians. Number 6. Mariah Carey vs. Eminem. Mariah Carey and Eminem had a brief fling in the early 2000s, but things went sour after they broke up. Eminem started to publicly insult Mariah in his music, including a song where he claimed they had a sexual relationship. Mariah denied the claims and fired back with her own song, but Eminem continued to taunt her in interviews and on social media. The feud eventually died down, but it left a mark on both artists' careers. Number 5. Prince vs. Michael Jackson. Prince and Michael Jackson were two of the biggest pop icons of the 1980s, but they didn't always get along. Their feud reportedly started when Michael wanted to include a duet with Prince on his album Bad, but Prince declined. The two also had different approaches to their music and performance styles, with Prince favoring live instrumentation and Michael using more electronic elements. They never publicly reconciled before Michael's untimely death in 2009. Number 4. Eminem vs. Machine Gun Kelly. In 2018, Eminem and Machine Gun Kelly had a highly publicized feud that played out on social media and in their music. It started when MGK released a diss track aimed at Eminem, who responded with his own track. The two continued to trade insults in their lyrics and on social media, with MGK even wearing a t-shirt with a photo of Eminem's daughter on it. The feud eventually died down, but it was a hot topic in the rap world for several months. Number 3. Led Zeppelin vs. The Who. In the 1970s, two of the biggest rock bands in the world were Led Zeppelin and The Who. However, their rivalry reportedly started when Led Zeppelin's manager Peter Grant punched The Who's drummer Keith Moon in the face at a party. The two bands also had different approaches to their music and performance styles, with Led Zeppelin being more experimental and The Who being more theatrical. They never publicly reconciled before the deaths of several members of both bands. Number 2. Biggie Smalls vs. Tupac Shakur. The feud between Biggie Smalls, Notorious B.I.G., and Tupac Shakur is one of the most famous and tragic in music history. The two rappers were once close friends, but their relationship soured after Tupac was shot and robbed in New York City in 1994. He believed that Biggie and his record label were involved, and released several diss tracks aimed at him. Biggie denied any involvement, but the feud continued to escalate until Tupac was tragically killed in a drive-by shooting in 1996. Biggie was killed in a similar incident just 6 months later. Number 1. Paul McCartney vs. John Lennon. Paul McCartney and John Lennon were the two main songwriters of the Beatles, but their relationship became strained in the late 1960s. They had different creative visions for the band, and Paul reportedly felt overshadowed by John's popularity. Their feud became more public after the band's breakup, with each of them taking jabs at the other in interviews and in their music. However, they eventually reconciled before John's death in 1980. So there you have it, some of the biggest feuds between famous musicians. From Kanye and Taylor to Oasis and Blur, these conflicts have shown that even the most successful and talented artists can sometimes clash with each other. While some feuds have been resolved over time, others have left lasting scars and continue to be remembered by music fans around the world.